Welcome to the Haunted Pineapple. Glad you could come. Hope you'll stay a while. Check out what we have to say, what we've got going on. If this is your first time, welcome. Glad you stopped by. While you're here, if you would hit the like button and hit subscribe, then you'll be able to be notified whenever we post some new content, and it will also help with the YouTube algorithm. You will help us get into when people start looking for certain things, and then they'll slide us in that area too. If you've been here before, hi creepers, how's it been? I know it's been a while. So this is what this little series is going to be. I made plans over the summer of some places that I was going to go. Well, those plans fell through. So I have had people in the past and the present ask me why I am so interested in paranormal. And I've had things happen that I can't explain, which made me more interested in the paranormal. So what I thought I would do is I would tell my paranormal events that happened in my life up to this point. I have a little bit of content, so it'll fill a few gaps. The first thing that I can remember, I've always liked ghost stories. I've always liked haunted movies or horror movies ever since I can remember. And my cousin had told me the story of the Bell Witch. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. There's a lot of story there. But I grew up in Tennessee, and the Bell Witch wasn't that far from where I grew up. It was at that time, this happened from 1817 to 1821 is the period of time that this legend, if you want to call it that, of John Bell Sr. and the Bell Witch and his family, and this happened. So John Bell moved his wife and his family to Red River, Tennessee, which is now known as Adams, Tennessee. And as they lived there longer and longer, he started procuring more and more land. I believe it said they had 385 acres by the end of it all. And there was supposed to be a land dispute between him and Katie Batts. So from that point, she cursed him because he said it was his land, back and forth. So one day, the dad, John Sr., was out, and he is checking his cornfield, seeing how, the crops are doing and whatnot. And he looks and he sees this ginormous dog, dark black dog, but it had a rabbit head. Very strange rabbit head. He shot at it, but it had disappeared. And he looked and he didn't find it anywhere. During this time, they'd been having knockings and bangings and such going on in the house and on the outside of the walls. Two of John Sr.'s sons, John Jr. and Drew, would go out. I think they were hunting, not 100% sure. And they came across this huge bird, just a huge and this ugly dark bird. And they had never seen anything like this before. And when they went back to look at it, it was gone. Now, John and Ruth had a daughter named Betsy. And Betsy reported seeing a little girl. And the little girl was wearing a green dress every time she saw her. So the things go on and on. They can hear mumblings in the house. They can't make out what I'm going to call the entity, I'm just going to go ahead and call it Bell Witch, make it easier. They couldn't understand what the entity was saying. They could just hear the mumblings and the murmurings and the rocks or the stones, what have you, that are hitting the house. He says, John Sr. says, we got to do something. So they call their minister over. So as time had gone, she got stronger. The Bell Witch got stronger and stronger, and so started speaking a little louder. And when the minister was there, he was trying to rid her by using scriptures, biblical scriptures. And she had gotten so stronger to the point that she was coming back with biblical scriptures. So whatever the minister, would throw at her, the Bell Witch, she would throw biblical scripture to retaliate to what he said. Well, this went on for a while until the minister said, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. I've got to go. I've got to go, and I'm not coming back. So he left. So as the years go on, sorry, just getting a little comfortable, John Jr. and Drew go and join the wars with, they go into battle with President Andrew Jackson. Now this is where I get a little interested in it. So they go to war and they fight with Andrew Jackson. And when the battle is over, they come back home. Well, as things go on, and eventually it said that Andrew Jackson had heard of the going-ons at the Bell Witch farm. So he told some of the members of his troop, I think we need to go check this out. We need to see what's going on. So him and some of the guys grab some wagons and some horses, and they go to the Bell Witch farm, or the Bell farm. And once they got to like the property line, the horses just stopped. The wagon stopped. And the horses would rear up, but they weren't going anywhere. And so the men get out and they're pushing the wagon. They just think they're stuck in the mud, is why they're not moving. So they get out and they're pushing the wagon, they're pulling on the horses, and they're not going anywhere. And it is said that Andrew Jackson shouted, by all eternal, if it's not the Bell Witch herself. And at that, a female voice said, yes, it is. And I will see you again later tonight. And at that, the horses were released and they were allowed to go on. So the men set up camp outside of the Bell home and get that all set up before they're going to sleep. And as nighttime falls and they're having supper and they're dining with the Bell family, one of the members of the troop says, well, I'll tell you what, she's not going to mess with us tonight because I've got this right here. Well, he had a nice, shiny piece, and he said it had silver bullets in it, and said, well, she's not going to mess with us because she's afraid of these silver bullets. She won't come anywhere near us, which basically that's provoking. And suddenly he is up in the air. He's shaking. He's being tossed about like he's having a seizure or whatever. And then he's dropped to the floor. Okay, now the guys were already begging to leave. They were begging to go home. And Andrew said, no, we're not leaving. Well, after this happened, the Bell Witch said, and this guy is not the only guy that's a fraud in your troop. So then Andrew Jackson's like, no, I want to find out who else in my troop is a fraud. So we're not going anywhere. So throughout the night, my mouth just went real dry. So throughout the night, there are like rocks being thrown at the walls of the house. There are rocks being thrown at the tents where the troops are sleeping. It was just ruckus and chaos all night long. It's said that by very early morning that you could see Andrew Jackson and his men heading back out to Nashville, and is reported saying that he would rather fight the whole British Army himself than ever have to deal with the Bell Witch again. So around this time, John Sr.'s health starts to decline. He starts losing the ability to walk around, comfortably and normally. Then it gets to the point where he is unable to leave his bed. He's bedridden. And in December of 1821, he had gotten so bad that one night he slipped into a coma. And by the following morning, John Sr. was dead. So they went to one of the sons went to the cupboard, and I'm not sure what made them go to the cupboard, but he did, and he found this strange vial that had this really dark looking liquid on the inside of it. And they had never seen this vial before, didn't know where it came from. And so he took it and he put a couple of drops on the cat's tongue. And the cat went like crazy up in the air, flipping around and, screeching and everything, and then hit the floor. And the second it hit the floor, the cat was dead. Well, then you can hear the Bell Witch saying, "Yep, I gave old John some of that. Yes, I did. I gave him a good bit of that." Well, the son then takes the vial and throws it in the fireplace, and a huge blue flaming ball shot straight up in the chimney. Now, this is what I have read since I've gotten older. My cousin, when she told me the story, it was coming out of the closet, a huge ball of blue flames, and then went up the chimney. So you don't sleep with your closet door open, you know what I'm saying? So then when he died, when John Sr. was dead, he had the biggest funeral that no one could really ever remember anybody else having up to that time. His funeral was so big that 3 ministers came and did 3 different eulogies over his body for this funeral. And after all the eulogies were done and the mourners are starting to leave, you can hear the Bell Witch singing. And she's singing loud, and she's singing about a bottle of brandy. And she didn't stop singing until the last mourner left the cemetery. Now, there is supposed to something happen, or a curse of every 7 years, and it's supposed to have been going on for like 300 years or so, that every 7 years something tragic or something happens bad in that area. And well, why not contribute it to the Bell Witch? Just makes it a little more sensational. So that was my my first taste, my first immersion in a story that had some reality to it. President Andrew Jackson was there. It's a pretty big deal, I thought. So from that point, I have to go to another legend that I know everybody has heard, the tale of Bloody Mary. Now, when I was in school, and since I've been out of school, every time I've heard somebody say something about Bloody Mary, the times you're supposed to say it is different. And there's always somebody around that has done it, or knows somebody who's done it, or somebody's sister did it and she still has a great big scratch all the way down onto her neck because she saw Bloody Mary. And I'm kind of a, yeah, right. So I go in my room that night. My sister and I shared a room, and our doors were like sliding doors. So I got in, had my mirror. You're supposed to do it in the dark, following all the rules. And I'm holding the mirror and I'm looking at it. And I'm counting off, making sure I say them clear, make sure I say them proper. And I thought I saw something move in the mirror. More than likely it was pareidolia. You just think you see something. And I thought, well, I better get out of here. So I went to slide the sliding closet door open, and it wouldn't move. It was almost like somebody was on the outside pushing it back toward the door frame, so I couldn't slide it back to get out. And I pushed and I pulled and I pulled and I pulled. And I started getting very panicky. And then finally I just grabbed it and pulled it back, and it finally opened. So I ran over to my door and flipped the light switch on. Light didn't come on. I flipped it again, and it didn't come on. I flipped it a lot of times and it didn't come on. And so then I just took off running down the hallway. And when I did, I ran smack into my father. And of course, I'm pathetic at this point. I'm terrified. And I said, I was in the closet, blame me, couldn't get the light to come on, couldn't get this to come on. And he walks down the hallway and he flips the switch. Light comes on. I don't know how, I don't know why. That was the only time that we lived there, and we lived there for quite a while, that there was ever any trouble with that light switch. And there was never any trouble with that light switch beyond. I don't know. So from Bloody Mary, I go to this lady that I saw repeatedly in my life. Now, the events that I'm sharing with you, there are very few people that even know these, and I just feel like maybe now's the right time. Now's a good time for me to share it. So that's why I'm doing it. So I was laying in bed one night. I've always been a very light sleeper, always. And I'm laying there, and I have no idea what time it is. And I hear high heels clicking down the hallway. They're getting closer and closer. We have carpeting on our hallway and in our bedroom. How am I hearing high heels? And they're getting closer. It seems like it's taking them forever to get. I know they're coming to me. It just seems like it's taking forever for them to get there. So they stop. Now, do I just squeeze my eyes tight shut, or do I open them? I open them. And I look over, my sister's still asleep in her bed. Now, I don't know if I didn't want to move or if I couldn't move. It was probably more like if I don't move, maybe she won't see me here, right? Well, I open my eyes, and this beautiful lady is at the end of my bed. And she's got this long, flowing blonde hair, icy crystal blue eyes, and these gowns flowing around her like she's on a movie production. And they've got an industrial fan. And she's looking at me. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't scared. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, things are going to get bad. And she says, th but they are going to get better. But when she said this, her lips didn't move. And she stood there for a few minutes. And she didn't leave like a normal person would leave, like turn around and walk out. She floated away from my bed and then sideways out the door. And I hear, yep, the heels clicking down the hallway. And it seemed like it took them longer to leave than it did for them to get there. Now, on this note, she will show up again in my other stories because I continually saw her for many years throughout my life. She always said the same thing up until the very last day that I saw her. And I was talking to somebody once, years after it happened, but years ago from now, and they were telling me of something extremely similar that happened to them. So guys, that's just a tip of the iceberg of why I go creeping. If you have any comments, leave them below. Let me know what you think. Be nice, don't be a troll. Everybody's entitled to their own belief, their own opinion. Like and subscribe. Get me in that YouTube algorithm. And I will see each and every one of you creepers later. Have a nice night. Be safe. Stay well.